Good evening, everyone. This is Project Aletheia. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Iranian war, and we're going to talk about Jeffrey Sachs here on the America First pregame show. I personally am tired of the entire Iran war. I think most people are. I think people are just tired of boomers in general, like starting wars and making us go in debt. Dude, I'm going to start doing other videos other than the America First pregame. And I've just been a little bit busy, but I need to do that throughout the day. Also, like I show up here at night at 10:15, 10:30, 10:45. I'm super tired, but however, I do it. And when I'm tired, I do a lot of stumbling. I'm like, and I like repeat myself and like I say and I'm like, yeah, okay, like, yeah, and I say these things. It's so fucking annoying. Pardon my French. It is very annoying, and I'm trying to be done with that. Okay. I promise you, I'm gonna get better at this whole thing. I'm not used to talking to a camera. I've talked to people, it's crowds as much as 400 or 500 people. I've talked to crowds on regular as much as 80, 90, 100 people. Talking to a camera is a whole nother art. It really is. But tonight, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about the Iran War. This clip comes from America First. Nick Fuentes, 1711 is the episode. And the first one, we'll jump straight in. This is the 3-hour, and 21-minute marker. And he goes into this for a while, and it took me like a little while to figure out which scenes I wanted to talk to you about. And quite honestly, I just kind of picked a few. And so we'll get into it. I thought last night's show was kind of boring because tired of hearing about politics. And most of us want to hear about like more, I don't know, like more drama stuff, right? We all do. But it's important for us and to remember that the America First movement is about understanding the understanding the things that are not red meat, or the things that are not sizzle. Excuse me. We have to understand the things that are red meat. We have to understand the meat of the argument. We have to understand the things that are most important. And that's why every night we're gonna talk about whatever Nick, we're gonna bring it to you. And honestly, it's important for us to do so. So let's jump and we'll discuss.
Iran, in order for the United States to get Iran to end the conflict, we actually have to compel Israel to stop their campaign in Lebanon. Iran has made it a condition of any future ceasefire or truce that Israel must stop the campaign against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Well, we're begging Israel to stop. Trump is begging and pressuring Netanyahu to stop their campaign to please Iran so that they will let us have our oil so that we can avert this energy economic catastrophe. Israel will not do it. Israel has been defiant. They won't listen. As time has gone on since the fall of the Assad regime in 2024,
let that sink in. There are no boomers watching this show, but let that sink in. Iran is defiant, and they have been successful. And the boomers are just like, we have to do away with them because they have they have nuclear weapons. Like it was going to be easy peasy, lemon squeezy, just like it was like for them to build a career, right? And to build a great life for them. They thought it was going to be so easy to go in Iran. And just like they don't understand the youth of our own nation, they don't understand how Iran has basically become a nation that has figured out how to survive, or knew that Israel was going to attack it at some point. Benjamin Netanyahu, or Benjamin Malachowski, whatever his name is, who went to some school in Philadelphia, that's who he is he's been talking about since the 90s. We have to attack Iran. What do you think Iran's been doing for the last 30 years? Getting ready for this.
Since October 7th, Turkey and Israel have become true rivals. It's become a domestic political problem for Turkey. They no longer are even, I think, able to maintain close relations with Israel. Turkey in the past has had a good and pragmatic bilateral relationship with Israel. But since October 7th and the slaughter of the Palestinians, an increasingly Islamized country like Turkey is not able to keep this relationship. That's one. But also in December 2024, the Assad regime fell, replaced by this new government led by Ahmed al-Shara, previously Gilani. And now Turkey has sought to use Syria as a forward operating base. Israel has a fear that Turkey longs to encircle Israel by increasing its influence in the Levant, that they have these ambitions to rebuild the Ottoman Empire, and so they want to expand into the south, maybe into the Arabian Peninsula. And if they do this, then they have this strategic encirclement of Israel, and they become a rival quite like Iran. And Turkey, like Iran, like Egypt, has a long history, has a common culture and language, massive population, a middle-class experts, major army, million-man army and military-industrial complex. If Turkey sours on Israel, they represent a true strategic threat, and they would become a real rival. So it's the souring of that relationship since October 7th, but also this competition inside of Syria. It's becoming now something like a cold proxy war between Ankara and Tel Aviv inside of Syria to compete for influence there that has soured Israel on Turkey. And so now, in order to put pressure on Israel to end their campaign in Lebanon, the Trump administration is flirting with the idea of giving Turkey F-35s. Now, the sale of...
All right. So because we cannot defeat with our own troops Iran, and it's not because we couldn't, it's because it would destroy our economy. We as Americans have we're accustomed to living a certain lifestyle. It would destroy our economy if we did that. It would go ahead and bankrupt kids that are now 18 years old. I have a son who's 18. Those are the people. That's why we can't do it, because it would jeopardize our livelihood. Plus, Donald Trump understands as a boomer that the boomer generation has put us $40 trillion in debt. Like, he's not one of these guys who goes, well, you need to work hard and this and that and blah, 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 blah. Like, he understands these things. You know, I didn't vote for Trump in this past election because I knew he was bought out by the Adelsons and he was going to be Israeli puppet. But there are a lot of things that he has actually done pretty good. That I watched this debate with Andrew Wilson. It was Andrew Wilson. Yeah. Hitting him and some other guy. And he does a great job of pointing out all these things. And even though, like, I'm not a fan of his, I think he has been an overall failure. I don't think he had much of a choice. We talked about one of our previous shows. Donald Trump had no choice. It was either go to jail, lose the Trump legacy, the Trump family goes in debt, or he sells out, becomes the president, he makes billions of dollars, and then he pardons himself. This is a man that's doing something that every man would probably do for their family, which is basically throw themselves in front of a bullet or a train or a car to save their family. I like just a few months ago, I would never imagine myself saying that. I was so angry at the man, but he's just doing what he needs to do. Think about that for a sec. He's doing what he needs to do to save his family. Let's keep going.
F-35s to Turkey is largely symbolic. We're going to give them 5 fighter jets, and There are a lot of problems with this, which is one, in order for Turkey to even have and operate the F-35s, they really need into.
All right. So what I meant to say was he's giving Turkey, meaning that, and I totally got off rail there on my last rant, but he realizes that we can't afford to go and fight Iran, but what we can afford to do is to sponsor their neighbors, give them ammunition, and be a threat to Iran. And that's where we're going with this.
Integration with the U.S. military-industrial complex. There's an industrial component to this as well.
Mhm.
So it's not as simple as they just get the F-35s. They also need some industrial capacity for parts and maintenance and other things. What's more, for us to actually deliver the F-35s is going to take years. They're only getting 5. If they wanted the F-35s to be a part of Turkey's arsenal, Turkey's going to need to update and modernize their entire Air Force. So this is something that's very complicated and complex, going to take a long time to fully implement. And then the other problem is that this is going to have to go through Congress. Turkey's going to have to give up the S-400 air defense system. We're going to have to figure out what we're going to do with that. And it also is going to have to go through Congress.
Bureaucracy, man.
The president can give a waiver to Turkey to have the F-35s, but there's also a law in the federal statute preventing Turkey from getting it. So the U.S. Senate might block Turkey's acquisition of F-35s, even if the president authorizes it and gives a waiver. So is this meaningfully going to change anything? Not necessarily. But the problem that this poses to Israel is that the U.S. and Israel have always had this special relationship, as everybody knows. And the reason that Israel has a military advantage over its neighbors is because this is actually enshrined in federal law in the United States. There's a federal statute in America that says that when we sell military technology to countries in the Middle East, we can't do it in such a way that it gives those countries a military edge over Israel.
Mm-hmm. Now, I had two videos of two separate video segments I was going to play, but they were so close together that I'm just going to bleed these into one, and then the next minute it's going to start bleeding into one. And this is going to be on the 3rd hour and 25th minute. And it's just going to keep going into this. Now, he talks about this Iran war for a long time. And it is dry. I'm not going to lie. It is very dry. It's not viral. It doesn't get a lot of clickbaits. But this is the part of Nick Fuentes in American Verse that I want to bring out. This is a young man who understands the long-term strategy for us to be educated on what's going on now in order for us to figure out how we're going to deal with shit in the future. All right, let's keep playing it.
The terminology that's used is qualitative military edge. And it is a legally binding mandate that whatever we give to Israel and whatever we give to any and every other country, we must ensure that Israel maintains the qualitative military edge over that country. So, for example, we were giving F-35s, I think it was to the Emirates or Saudi Arabia recently, but we couldn't give them as many as we wanted to because we had to make sure that Israel always has more than that other country. Because it is mandated that we got to protect Israel's military edge. It's not enough that Israel has a nuclear arsenal of 300 warheads. It's not enough that they have intelligence sharing and close coordination with the Pentagon. We also make sure that they have the best and most sophisticated equipment from a technological point of view, and that they have more of it. That they have more of it or enough of it that's sufficient that they will have the edge over the Emirates or Saudi Arabia or Qatar. And so the idea that we would give Turkey F-35s, what it represents is that we might try to balance things out in the Middle East. Maybe it's good for the United States to give Turkey relatively more power against Israel. We're turning up the heat. We're going to make it a little bit more uncomfortable. Let's say, for the sake of argument, there's a hypothetical conflict in Syria. When the Assad regime was pushed out, Erdogan had an idea to build a Turkish military base inside of Syria. Well, Israel went ahead and bombed that base to ensure it couldn't be used by Turkey. Already, there's going to be a struggle for power to fill that vacuum inside of Syria. Israel wants to maintain its freedom to strike where and when they want, with al-Shara as a partner. So Turkey is going to government on their southern border and probably increase military cooperation and thus probably protect that regime. And
are you getting a sense of like how things are complicated? I mean, that's if you don't walk away with anything other than any other point of information, just walk away with the fact that these things are very complicated, right? And this is where if you're going to be a true groiper, a guy who understands Nick Fuentes, you're going to have a desire to understand the intricacies of the logistics and the technicalities of how everything works, because that's what he's going to give you. He's not going to give you the bullshit about these people suck and that people suck. And he has done that. All those things go viral because he's a genius, dude. He understands how to make those clips. But at the same time, his show is, at the most part, legitimately trying to educate A Few Good Men, right? That movie, A Few Good Men. The few, the proud, the Marine. Like, it's even fewer than the Marines. It's a few good men. He says 50,000 to 100,000 men is what he needs to change the world, to go into higher places of education. That's 100% right, dude. He's 100% right. Let's keep going.
Stability of its government and its unity over the entire territory. So let's say there's some hypothetical conflict. Israel is going to want the ability, if necessary, to win a war against Turkey. At the minimum, to win an air war against Turkey in Syria. If Turkey has an inferior air force, then they might need to eventually bow out and withdraw from such a conflict. Well, if the United States is furnishing Turkey with the latest F-35 or some variant of F-35, then maybe that battle becomes a little bit closer than it otherwise would be. And maybe that gives Turkey a little bit more leverage in Syria, and maybe it gives them a little bit more leverage in Cyprus, and they get a little bit more power in the Eastern Mediterranean, feel a little bit more comfortable exerting themselves. Why? Because Israel's qualitative military edge has been diminished.
Yep.
And what qualitative
100%.
means is in kind, in description. Quantitative is quantity. So if we're giving, in other words, Turkey the same qualitative type of technology, the same type of jet, then symbolically, it's like Turkey and Israel have the same tech, they have the same air force. It's going to be a little bit more balanced. And so this is basically indicating to Israel, okay, whatever happens in Iran, you're going to have to deal with Turkey. Maybe Turkey becomes the protector and guarantor of the West Bank. Mm-hmm. If Gaza's cooked, maybe Turkey's going to prevent the annexation of the West Bank. Maybe Turkey becomes the guarantor of a peace in Lebanon, or Syria for that matter, or sovereignty in Cyprus or elsewhere.
Claiming a rainbow back for us no longer belongs to the alphabet letter people. It belongs to us. Come on, dude. This is cool. Isn't that cool? I think that's cool. I like it. It just gives me, it's nice ambiance in my office. Let's go.
Israel's going to have to deal with them. What's more, Turkey has just entered into a mutual defense pact with Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. Okay, so even in a scenario where you don't got to worry about Iran anymore, Iran's out of the picture, maybe there's a friendly government, now you got to worry about the triangulation of Saudi Arabia in the southeast, Pakistan with their nuclear arsenal in the Far East, and now you got to worry about Turkey on your doorstep in the Eastern Mediterranean. It's going to be a very uncomfortable situation for Israel. And I think what Trump is threatening is, don't make us abandon this special relationship. You don't want to do what we say? Well, we have other options. We'll give these F-35s to Turkey. What do you have that they don't have? Turkey's got a 1 million-man army, significant economy. in a very critical location in the Black Sea, the Aegean, the Bosporus Strait.
Hold on. Turkey has a 1,000,000-man army. What is Turkey's population? That's unreal, dude. Like these people really understand like the need for like what is Turkey's population. 87.9 million, so 88 million. And they have a 1,000,000-person population. Holy shit, dude. That's unbelievable. That really is truly unbelievable. That means like they have more than almost 1.5% of their population serves in the military. Let's keep watching.
Right. What can you provide? That's the question. So I think that's the bigger picture here. I don't know that the United States will give them F-35s anytime soon. And like I said, even if that decision was made, it's going to be a very long and complicated process. We may not even get across the finish line. But talking about it and threatening that, and even, for example, going to Ankara in the middle of the implementation of the MOU, what that's meant to do is send a message, which is get in line.
Yeah.
You want to go? You want to go and do your own thing. You don't want to do what we say in Lebanon. You're gonna rebel against the United States. Well, then let's see how that goes for you when we give a squadron of F-35s to the Emirates and we give a squadron to Turkey, and suddenly you're encircled. That's the message. So anyway, so that's the story on the F-35s. Like I said, we'll see. I don't think there's going to be a ton of movement on that. It's possible, but I don't think that's going to be anything happening in a timely manner. I think that's mostly geared at the current situation in Iran. But I'll tell you, the Middle East is changing. And so the old way that things were structured, which is this Iran,
pay attention to this part,
Saudi Arabia proxy war, and the rise of Iran's influence in the wake of the fall of Saddam Hussein and the Syrian civil war, that's no longer the story after October 7th. And the new story is increasing cooperation between this hexagonal alliance, which is India, Greece, Cyprus, the UAE, Israel, potentially other partners, against this more status quo Islamist coalition of Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Qatar, and the United States trying to find a way to navigate in the aftermath of these wars as we extricate ourselves and look towards a future in the Indo-Pacific. That's really the new story. The Middle East is being realigned and rewritten in real time.
Yeah, that's going to be a story really hard for boomers, especially the holy shit. I know it's late night, guys. I always say that. The evangelicals. It's going to be a really hard story for the evangelicals, the dispensationalists, to understand that they're going to die off. Them, all the boomers, all the older Gen Xers, they're going to die off, and nobody's going to be raptured. And their whole life, they thought they were going to be raptured. I mean, and now everything has changed drastically, completely changed. And now these people, luckily they have their money. And I'm gonna start doing some boomer videos. I really am, because I'm really I can't tell you. There's really not a whole lot of like other issues I have convictions for, but I will tell you I have convictions for these boomers, like to expose and to like not educate them. I don't give a shit about them, but to educate us as to how the hell we're going to get over them. Truly, how the hell we're going to get over these fucking boomers, man. They are the worst. But that's pretty much it, man. Like, yeah. everything's changing in the foreign nations in the Middle East and all these countries. Everything's changing. Israel is no longer going to be a player in the game anymore. They're just not, because they've made America look like incomplete. They've made America look like a complete dipshit. Okay, let's be honest. They've made America look foolish. Any president after Trump who's not going to be a boomer, because they're all going to be dead, is well, and there's no boomers running for president. It's going to be JD Vance is a millennial. There's not going to ever be a Gen X president. Think about that. Gen Xers, dude. I feel bad for the Gen Xers. I really do. Like, if you're in the Gen Xer generation, I feel bad for you. But, like, truly, mostly on a political level, not on a personal level, you probably have great lives. Gen Xers, good for you. But, like, as far as like politically speaking, like, we have to be done with the boomer generation. These guys are such an embarrassment to us, and they are destroying our economy. $40 trillion in debt. They brought us into another fucking war. Unreal. All right, let's get into this next one. This is going to be about Jeffrey Sachs, but we're going to play a video that I have on my Instagram about Jeffrey Sachs real quick. And I like Jeffrey Sachs. Nick Fuentes does not like Jeffrey Sachs. I kind of like him. He's Jewish. Nick has a much stronger guard against Jews, which I understand. I grew up around a lot of Jews. He didn't. He grew up in some part of Chicago. I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, where I grew up around. I used to go to JCC. I mean, shit, dude. I used to do paper routes for a lot of Jews, so on and so forth as a kid. I think I was actually like a Shabbat goy, because they would have me turn on lights on Saturdays. I didn't know that until recently. I realized that, holy shit, I think I was. But here we go. Let's listen to Jeffrey Sachs, please. Let's hear what he has to say about how many people have died in the Middle East since our involvement with Zionism and our involvement with Israel since the 1990s.
Even than avoiding the war with Iran is the United States finally telling Israel, come on, there's a limit. You reached it. You exceeded it. 53 million deaths of women and children and everyone else.
53 million deaths. I don't know if he's trying to gaslight anybody, but his statement went uncontested on the Tucker Carlson show.
The United States needs to say, you crossed the line.
Do know about these attacks is that this is a war between Israel and Muslims. This has nothing to do with Christians. It has nothing to do with Americans. Say it's real. Why do you think they targeted Hanukkah? Because Muslims worldwide are watching Israel ethnically cleanse Gaza, watching them bomb Lebanon, bomb Iraq, Iran, Yemen with impunity. But let's not pretend like we don't know what's going on here. The people in Gaza are powerless. They have no advocate. They have no agent. Nobody's helping them.
Pay attention.
They're at Israel's mercy. Israel is absolutely slaughtering them. They say there are no innocent Palestinians. The kids are innocent. They voted for Hamas. They should all die. Sooner or later, some of these Muslims, and again, I'm not justifying it, these people snap and they say, well, how about a taste of your own medicine? These people are in our countries. Muslims, pro-Israel Jews, they're coming into our countries and they're battling it out. What are we doing? We're paying for the genocide, giving Israel the weapons to carry it out. Well, we have a large Muslim population. Then the victims of this are going to create chaos and terrorist attacks in our countries where we've invited them in. I am adamant that we should have none of these people here. We should have none of these foreigners here.
I'm going to pause it right there. This goes back to December 16th, 2025, when I posted that on my Instagram. All right. It's like truly, these things have been talked about for a while. Jeffrey Sachs says 53 million people have died. Nick has said from the very beginning to be consistent, like he always is, very consistent. Like he has basically said that we have to watch out for not only Jews but also Islamic people. We have to look out for that, man. We have to pay attention to the people that are the most consistent, and he is the most consistent. Like Jake Shields and Dan Blazarian and these guys, dude, they're not consistent. They're not. They've been around for 2 years. This kid has been around for 10 years with the same consistent message. What the fuck do you guys think we're going to get out of anybody else? We need to support Nick Fuentes. We need to support the America First movement. This is the most accurate information that we're ever going to get. So we're going to get into this video where he right here, the rest of last night's video where he talks about Jeffrey Sachs on his DMs or whatever it is at the end, super chats, so on and so forth. So here, let's get into it.
On this weekend, and you see it with a lot of these people that are involved with Russia Today or Sputnik, and they're pushing all this left-wing propaganda or conspiracy stuff. So yeah, whose side is he on? They should bomb NATO. Whose side are you on? Excuse me. So same thing with some of these other guys, like I got the hiccups a little bit, like Jeff Sachs. Whose side is that? Jeff Sachs, dude. Fuck Jeffrey Sachs.
He hates him, dude. I don't hate him.
Blazes this Jew. Okay, it's like Tucker brings Jeffrey Sachs on his show and says, "Oh, you're brilliant. Oh, you're such a hero." Dude, Jeffrey Sachs went to one of these like multipolarity summits or forums in Belgrade, and he literally takes the stage and says, "I can't wait for the multipolar era." He says, "I can't wait for 500 years of European domination to end. It's everybody else's turn to lead."
Said that.
He said, "We white people think we're the only ones. We're the only ones that can achieve a level of civilizational development."
I'm learning right in front of you here.
Now that we're taking the boot off of everybody's neck, we get to be put in our place. That's Jeffrey Sachs.
Well, if that's what Jeffrey Sachs says, then guess what, Jeffrey Sachs? Fuck you. I mean, if that's what you really said, that somehow white Europeans need to learn a lesson with the boot on their neck or whatever it was, bro, are you serious? You're fucking with me, right? You're fucking with me. Are you serious? Like, dude, seriously? Come on, man. Let's finish this.
Go and look it up. I'm not going to find the exact timestamp, but I'll find it right now. He went to some Eurasia forum, some Eurasia multipolarity forum. Let me see if I can find it. Was it this one? Yeah, it is. Okay, here it is. Here it is. I literally here. I'm so good. This is from 6 months ago. That's who I am, and you're nothing.
Well, I agree in part, but not entirely. And but what I do think is very important for all of us to understand, I think we all feel it also, almost every day in some sense, is that we are at a watershed moment in history. I don't think it's exactly passing the baton, say, from the United States to China, which is how it's often discussed. What I do think is true is that we're at the end of a 500-year cycle in history. 500 years ago was the beginning of Europe's ascent to global power. And it came basically, when one looks back, because of two decisive voyages at the end of the 15th century. Christopher Columbus thought he was going to India, and he ended up in the Americas instead. Vasco da Gama was aiming to go to Asia. He circled the Cape of Good Hope, the southern tip of Africa, and with the help of Arab sailors, made it to India. So within 10 years, 1492 for Columbus and 1498 for Vasco da Gama's voyage, suddenly Europe had sea routes to the whole world. And part of the world was not even known, of course, to the Europeans up to that point, the Americas. This, in my view, changed human history for the next 5 centuries. It's a long story, of course, exactly what happened. But basically, Europe's control over the Americas was a decisive change of relative power in the world. Even that story of Europe's control over the Americas needs a footnote that's interesting, because a few European conquerors conquered a continent that had about 100 million people in it in the year 1492 when Christopher Columbus arrived. And so you might ask, how did Europe conquer the Americas, which had native populations all through the Americas? And the answer was not military conquest primarily. They brought diseases, which the New World populations didn't know. So the New World was conquered by yellow fever, by typhus, by plague, by malaria, by other diseases brought by the Europeans. But the point is that within a century, the native population had been reduced by 95%. And the Europeans had 2 giant continents for minerals, for gold, for silver, for agriculture, for colonization. And this was a change of human history. And I raise this point because, to my mind, this is the start of a 500-year period. By around 1750, the European global empires, the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Dutch, the British, which were the ocean empires, had enough power now to start conquering Asia and Africa. They actually couldn't make it into Africa yet because malaria was a protective barrier for Africa. In fact, every time the Europeans went to Africa to try to conquer, they were defeated by the mosquito more than the local populations. What enabled Africa to be colonized, which only happened at the end of the 19th century, was gin and tonic. Because tonic is quinine. And quinine is an ancient Peruvian cure for fever. And it was studied by the British. The seeds were stolen and brought back to Kew Gardens. It was cultivated. It was introduced into gin and tonic. And then the British could sit on their verandas and rule over Africa by the end of the 19th century, protected from malaria.
There's some part where he goes like, oh, like we're the only ones that could invent stuff or whatever. But it's like,
gin and tonic? What the fuck? I gotta look that up.
It's okay. So that's Jeffrey Sachs. That guy is like, he's the one in the Clinton administration who said that, you know, we should have advanced NATO eastward towards Russia.
Right.
He goes on Tucker Carlson because he like hates Netanyahu and hates Israel or whatever.
We all do.
But that's how the guy, he's a Jew. That's how he talks. He says, we're not handing it over from the United States to China. He said, we're handing it over from the white race to everybody else. And he basically says by the end of it, like, and it's about time. It's arbitrary that the Europeans dominated. It's basically, we got lucky. We got lucky. We were the ones that happened to explore the world. We were the ones that happened to kill everybody with disease. So we lucked out and got all this material. And then we used it to conquer everybody. And so luckily now all this is coming to an end. And now we're going to let India and China, he's literally, that's by definition, a third worldist. He's a third worldist. He believes that the third world got this rotten deal, that their entire story is defined by colonialism, and he's advocating for them to basically take control of their resources and unite and stick it to the white nations, to the colonial nations. That's who he is. And that's what many of these anti-Israel people are. And the reason it matters that Jeff Sachs is a Jew is because he doesn't see himself as European. That's why he has this anti-white. He goes, well, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that the Europeans are done. The 500 year, well, look, I'm not happy about that. Why would white people be happy about that? Our 500-year cycle of dominating the world is over? Why would we want it to end? Because it's fair? Look, we won. It's that we were the ones that ventured outward. They could have built the boats. The Ottoman Empire could have built the boats. The Qing could have built the boats.
All right, we'll leave it at the boats. But very true, huh? What do you think? Let me know. Let me know in the chats. Let me know. I'm looking forward to the day that I do these streams and I have people in my chats, man. Trying to figure out how to make that happen, whether I'm shadow banned or I need to pay for, exposure or what the fuck is going on, dude? How is YouTube blocking me so bad that I don't even have a single person in this chat? Not a single person. And I'm going to keep doing it. I'm just going to keep doing it. I don't care, but that's the end of it, man. I appreciate you guys so much. Let me see my hair. Oh, no. Oh, it looks good. It's still good. Oh, yeah. I still got a head of hair, Yeah. I'm lucky at 45, Some gray hair on the sides. Whatever, man. But that's pretty much it for tonight. Yeah, we talked about the Iran war. We talked about Jeffrey Sachs. That's it. Let me know. Hit me up on X if you want to message me. Hit me up before I get famous. I'm gonna get famous, man. You guys are gonna be jealous that you didn't want to know me before. Trust me. Trust me. Trust my ass. What's my hair look like? It's not thinning, dude. I don't have thinning hair. I don't. Let me see here. No, it's not thinning. I don't have thinning hair. I have really good hair. I have dope hair. Let me know. All right. Peace out. Appreciate you guys. Later.